Jake Morrison stared at the tactical display floating above his command chair. Red dots marked the alien ships that surrounded Earth's solar system like a cage of metal and death. 3 years had passed since the Zephyrian Galactic Empire made first contact, and humanity had been prisoners in their own home ever since. "Admiral, we're picking up another transmission from the surface," reported Communications Officer Amy Parker. Her voice carried the weight of countless similar messages they had intercepted over the past months. "Play it," Morrison ordered, though he already knew what he would hear. The message crackled through the speakers. It was from Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, leader of Earth's underground resistance. "This is Rodriguez to any free human forces. The Empire has established new monitoring stations in major cities. They're watching everything we do. We need to act soon, or we'll lose what little freedom we have left." Morrison clenched his fists. His hidden fleet in the Kuiper Belt was all that remained of humanity's military power. 50 ships against an empire that controlled half the galaxy. The odds were impossible, but Morrison had learned that impossible was just another word for difficult. "Sir, Captain Collins is returning from his reconnaissance mission," reported Lieutenant Steve Walsh from the navigation station. Minutes later, Captain Steve Collins entered the bridge. His face was grim, and his uniform bore the marks of hasty repairs. "Admiral, it's worse than we thought. The Empire has monitoring stations throughout the entire system, not just around Earth, but everywhere. Asteroid belts, gas giant moons, even in the outer debris fields." Morrison nodded slowly. The Empire claimed they were protecting the galaxy from humanity's aggressive nature. They said humans were too violent, too unpredictable for civilized space, but Morrison suspected there was more to it. "What did you find at the Jupiter station?" Morrison asked. Collins activated a holographic display. "I managed to get close enough to scan their databases. Admiral, they're not just watching us. They're studying us. Medical scans, behavioral analysis, genetic mapping. They know more about human biology than we do." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. "Why would they need that information if they just wanted to contain us?" "That's not the worst part," Collins continued. "I found records of other species, dozens of them, all marked as terminated due to aggressive tendencies." The bridge fell silent. Morrison stared at the data scrolling across the display. Species after species, all destroyed by the Empire for the same reason they gave for containing humanity. "They don't want to contain us," Morrison said quietly. "They want to study us before they kill us." Amy Parker looked up from her console. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Dr. Rodriguez." The main screen flickered to life, showing Rodriguez in what looked like an abandoned subway tunnel. Behind her, Morrison could see other resistance fighters preparing equipment. "Jake, we don't have much time," Rodriguez said. "I've been analyzing the Empire's technology that we captured in the early raids. There's something they're afraid of, something about human neural structure. Our brains adapt faster than any other species they've encountered." Morrison leaned forward. "What kind of adaptation?" "We can learn their technology, integrate it, improve it. Other species can use alien tech, but they can't truly understand it. Humans can. That's why they're studying us. They want to know how we do it before they eliminate us." Morrison made his decision. He had been planning Operation Breakout for months, waiting for the right moment. But there might not be a right moment. Sometimes you had to make your own opportunity. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he announced over the fleet communication system. "Prepare for Operation Breakout. We're going to punch a hole through their containment and get word to the rest of the galaxy." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Morrison's ships moved from their hiding places in the asteroid belt. They had been modified with salvaged alien technology. But Morrison knew it wouldn't be enough. The Empire had thousands of ships in the containment fleet. "Admiral, we're in position," reported Captain Collins from his ship, the Freedom's Edge. Morrison looked around his bridge one last time. These men and women had followed him into an impossible situation, and now he was asking them to follow him into certain death. "All ships, execute breakout. Target the command vessel." The human fleet emerged from the asteroid field like ghosts materializing from the void. Their first volley caught the aliens by surprise, destroying 3 patrol ships before the Empire could respond. But the response, when it came, was overwhelming. Alien ships poured out of hyperspace, surrounding the human fleet. Morrison watched as his tactical display filled with enemy contacts. "Admiral, the Defiance is taking heavy damage," Amy reported. "Tell them to fall back. All ships, fighting withdrawal. To Point Charlie." Morrison's plan was simple. They couldn't win, but they could hurt the Empire enough to prove a point, and they could capture more alien technology in the process. The battle lasted 3 hours. Morrison lost half his fleet, but they managed to cripple the alien command ship and capture its database. More importantly, they broadcast a message that every human could hear. Amy Parker, bleeding from a head wound, but still at her station, made the transmission that would change everything. "This is Lieutenant Amy Parker of the Human Defense Fleet, to all humans on Earth and throughout the system. They call us aggressive. They call us primitive. They want to cage us like animals. But we're not animals. We're humans. And humans don't stay caged." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "You wanted to contain us, you wanted to study us, you wanted to learn our secrets before you killed us. Well, here's a secret for you. We learn faster than you thought possible. We adapt quicker than you can plan for. And we remember every insult, every threat, every friend you've murdered." The transmission cut through the Empire's jamming, reaching every human device in the system. "You should have destroyed us when you had the chance," Amy continued, "because we're going to show you what human aggression really looks like. This isn't containment anymore. This is war." Morrison smiled as his damaged fleet limped back to their hidden base. They had lost the battle, but they had won something more important. They had shown humanity that the Empire could bleed. More importantly, they had captured alien database records that would change everything. The Empire's greatest mistake wasn't trying to contain humanity. It was giving them time to learn as the alien ships regrouped around the solar system, tightening their grip. They didn't realize they had just created something far more dangerous than they could imagine. They had given humanity a reason to evolve. 4 years had passed since Admiral Morrison's failed breakout attempt, and the galaxy was learning to fear a new name: the Ghost Fleet. Commander Rick Davis stood on the bridge of his ship, watching alien patrols search desperately for his vessels. They would never find them. Human engineers had done something the Empire thought impossible. They had made their ships invisible. "Commander, we're receiving signals from the Kepler colony," reported Navigation Officer Billy Johnson. "Colonel Thompson says they're ready for the next phase." Davis smiled. Diana Thompson had done the impossible. She had established human colonies on worlds the aliens considered uninhabitable, planets with toxic atmospheres, deadly radiation, and crushing gravity. The Empire avoided these worlds because they meant death for any civilized species, but humans weren't civilized. They were adaptable. "Set course for the Venom system," Davis ordered. "Let's see how our new friends are settling in." The journey took 3 days through hyperspace. Davis used the time to review reports from across the galaxy. Human colonies were popping up everywhere the Empire didn't look. Dead worlds, asteroid fields, the hearts of dangerous nebulae. Places where life shouldn't exist. When they arrived at Venom 3, Davis could barely believe what he saw. The planet's surface was covered in acid clouds that could dissolve most metals in minutes. But there on the surface were human cities. Thriving human cities. Colonel Diana Thompson met them at the orbital platform. She looked different from the last time Davis had seen her. Her skin had a slight blue tint and her eyes reflected light like a cat's. "Welcome to paradise," she said with a grin that showed teeth slightly sharper than normal human teeth. Davis stared at her. "Diana, what happened to you?" "Evolution," she replied simply. Dr. Kevin Walsh figured it out. "We don't have to just use alien technology. We can integrate it. Biological integration. I can breathe the atmosphere down there. My skin filters the acid. My bones are 3 times stronger than they used to be." She led Davis to the observation deck. Below them, humans worked in the acid rain without protection. They moved faster than normal humans. their enhanced muscles allowing them to work in the crushing gravity. "How many are like you?" Davis asked. "All of them," Thompson replied. "Every colonist who volunteers gets the adaptation serum. We're not just surviving on these worlds, Rick. We're thriving, and the Empire doesn't even know we're here." Davis felt a mixture of amazement and horror. "Are you still human?" Thompson's enhanced eyes focused on him. "We're what humans need to become. The Empire wanted to contain us because we're aggressive and adaptable. So we became more aggressive and more adaptable." Back in space, Davis received an urgent communication from Admiral Morrison. The Empire was planning a major offensive. They had finally realized that humans were escaping the solar system and wanted to crush them before they could spread further. "All Ghost Fleet commanders, report to coordinates Delta 7. Morrison's message said. "It's time to show them what we've learned." Davis arrived at the rendezvous to find a sight that took his breath away. The human fleet had grown. Ships that looked nothing like the vessels they had started with filled the void. They were hybrid designs, combining human engineering with captured alien technology. Admiral Morrison had changed too. His left arm was now mechanical, integrated with alien biotechnology. His eyes glowed with artificial light. "The Empire is sending Admiral Vexthor with 3 full fleets," Morrison announced to his commanders. "They want to end this war before it really begins. They're going to attack our colonies directly." Commander Sarah Martinez, leader of the Strike Wing, raised her hand. "Admiral, our intelligence suggests they're targeting the Crimson Nebula system first. They think our colony ships are hiding there." Morrison smiled, and Davis noticed his teeth had been replaced with something that looked more like weapons than tools for eating. "They're right, but they don't understand what the nebula does to us." The plan was insane, even by human standards. The Crimson Nebula was filled with radiation that could kill most life forms in minutes. But humans had been living there for 2 years. Their bodies adapted to survive and even thrive in the deadly environment. When Admiral Vexthor's fleet arrived at the nebula, they found what looked like a small human colony ship trying to hide in the radiation field. The alien admiral ordered his ships to pursue, confident that the humans would be forced to flee or die in the deadly energy storm. What he found instead was hell. Commander Davis led the Ghost Fleet out of the nebula's heart, his ships glowing with radiation that would have killed his crew 4 years ago. But these weren't the same humans who had been contained in their solar system. These were something new. "All ships, execute Crimson Protocol," Davis ordered. The human ships didn't just survive the nebula's radiation. They used it. Their hulls absorbed the deadly energy and channeled it into their weapons. When they fired, their beams carried the concentrated fury of a dying star. Admiral Vexthor watched in horror as his shields, designed to stop any known weapon, collapsed under the assault. His ships, built to withstand the rigors of space, began to melt under the focused radiation. "How are they surviving in there?" Vexthor demanded of his science officer. "I don't understand it, Admiral. The radiation levels should have killed them hours ago. But the humans weren't just surviving, they were hunting." Davis's ships moved through the nebula like predators, picking off alien vessels one by one. The Empire's ships couldn't pursue because the radiation was too dangerous. In 3 hours, Admiral Vexthor lost 3 entire fleets. The survivors fled in panic, carrying stories that would spread throughout the Empire. Stories of humans who didn't just survive in deadly environments, but made those environments their weapons. After the battle, Davis stood in his ready room, looking at reports from across human space. Colony after colony was reporting the same thing. Humans weren't just adapting to survive. They were evolving to dominate. Dr. Walsh's adaptation serum was spreading through every human settlement. People were volunteering to undergo biological modifications that would have horrified their ancestors. But these changes weren't just cosmetic. They were strategic. Humans who could survive in vacuum. Humans who could see across multiple spectrums of light. Humans who could process toxins that killed other species. Each adaptation made them more dangerous, more capable of surviving in places their enemies couldn't go. Diana Thompson's voice came over the communication system from her acid. World colony. Rick, we're ready for the next phase. The Empire thinks they know what aggressive means. They think they understand human nature, but they've never seen humans with nothing left to lose. Davis nodded. The war was entering a new phase. Humanity had spent 4 years learning to survive. Now they were learning to hunt. On worlds throughout the galaxy, human colonists were preparing for something the Empire had never faced before. An enemy that didn't just fight back, but adapted to become stronger with every battle. The Empire had wanted to contain humanity because they were afraid of human aggression. They were about to learn that contained aggression, when finally released, became something far worse than they had ever imagined. The Ghost Fleet disappeared back into the nebula, leaving behind only the wreckage of 3 alien fleets and a message, broadcast across all frequencies. You wanted to see human nature, this is just the beginning. General Frank Carter walked through the halls of what used to be an alien research facility. Now it belonged to humanity, and it was being transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Amanda Hayes met him at the main laboratory, her appearance shocking even by the new standards of human evolution. Half of her face was covered with what looked like living metal, and her left arm had been completely replaced with alien biotechnology. But her eyes still held human intelligence, perhaps even more than before. General, the integration is proceeding better than expected, she reported. We've successfully incorporated Zephyrian neural enhancement into our soldiers. They can now process information at 10 times normal human speed. Carter nodded, though he wasn't sure if he was pleased or horrified. And their loyalty? Unchanged. They're still human at their core, just more capable. Carter had developed what the military now called the consumption doctrine. It was simple. Humanity didn't just defeat enemies, they absorbed them. Their technology, their biology, their knowledge, everything became part of humanity's growing arsenal. Show me the latest batch, Carter ordered. Hayes led him to an observation window. Below, human soldiers moved through training exercises that would have been impossible for unmodified humans. They flew without wings, breathed underwater without equipment, and lifted objects that should have crushed them. Captain Billy Johnson was leading the exercise. His skin had a green tint from incorporating plant-like alien DNA that allowed him to photosynthesize. He could survive for weeks without food, drawing energy directly from sunlight. Johnson volunteered for the botanical integration 3 months ago, Hayes explained. He can now survive in almost any environment with minimal resources. Carter watched as Johnson demonstrated his new abilities. The captain moved with inhuman grace, his modified nervous system allowing him to react to threats before they even registered in a normal human brain. How many species have we successfully integrated? Carter asked. 17 so far. Each one adds new capabilities to our forces. The aquatic modifications from the Deepwater Syndicate allow our Marines to operate underwater indefinitely. The crystalline integration from the Silicon Collective gives our engineers the ability to interface directly with technology. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. Colonel Diana Thompson's voice came through the speakers from her command ship. General Carter, we have a situation at Altair Prime. The local government is requesting immediate surrender, rather than face consumption. Carter smiled grimly. Word was spreading throughout the galaxy about what happened to worlds that resisted humanity. Not just conquest, but transformation. Human colonies would be established, and within months, the local population would be given a choice. Join humanity, or become part of their biological research. Most chose to join. Accept their surrender, Carter ordered. But send Dr. Hayes anyway. Their biotechnology could be useful. The transport to Altair Prime took 6 hours. Carter used the time to review reports from across human space. The news was overwhelming. Species after species was surrendering without a fight. The Empire's client races were abandoning their overlords and seeking protection from humanity. Not because humanity was merciful, but because they were thorough. When they arrived at Altair Prime, the planetary governor met them at the spaceport. Governor Zelkoth was a crystalline, his body made of living mineral that could reshape itself at will. He was trembling, something Carter had never seen a crystalline do. "General Carter, we surrender completely," Zelkoth said immediately. "We offer our technology, our knowledge, everything. Just please don't make us like them." Carter looked confused. "Like who?" "The Vorthan colonies that joined you last month. They're not Vorthan anymore. They're something else. Something that wears Vorthan shapes but thinks human thoughts." Dr. Hayes stepped forward, her mechanical arm clicking as it moved. "Governor, integration is voluntary. Those who join us keep their essential selves. They just become more than they were before." "But they're not the same people," Zelkoth insisted. "They look at us with human eyes. They think with human logic. You don't just conquer worlds, you consume them." Carter realized this was the source of the galaxy's growing terror. Humanity wasn't just winning the war, they were changing the fundamental nature of the conflict. Instead of traditional conquest, they offered evolution. Instead of destroying enemies, they absorbed them. "Governor, your species has unique abilities," Carter said calmly. "Your people can interface with mineral-based technology in ways humans cannot. If you join us, you'll keep those abilities but gain human adaptability and innovation." "And if we refuse?" Carter's expression didn't change. "Then you'll be studied until we understand how to replicate your abilities without your cooperation. The choice is yours, but the outcome is the same. Either way, your technology becomes part of humanity's growth." 3 days later, the first crystalline volunteers underwent the integration process. Dr. Hayes worked carefully, ensuring that the alien subjects retained their consciousness while gaining human neural patterns. The result was something unprecedented. In galactic history, the integrated crystallines could still reshape their mineral bodies, but now they could also adapt and learn like humans. They retained their species' patience and precision, but gained humanity's creativity and aggression. "Captain," Johnson reported the success to General Carter. "Sir, the integration is working better than expected. The crystalline subjects are developing new abilities neither species had before. They can create living mineral technology that grows and adapts." Carter watched through the observation window as a crystalline human hybrid created a weapon by reshaping its arm into a crystalline blade that could cut through alien armor. But more impressive was the way it constantly modified the blade's structure, optimizing it for different targets. They're not just combining abilities, Carter realized. They're creating new ones. Dr. Hayes joined him at the window. "That's the beauty of human neuroplasticity. We don't just acquire alien abilities, we improve them. Every integration makes us stronger, but it also makes us more creative with our new capabilities." A message came in from Admiral Morrison. Emperor Zelnath was finally taking the human threat seriously. The Empire was mobilizing its core fleets for a final assault on human space. But Carter wasn't worried. Over the past year, humanity had integrated with dozens of species. They had acquired the strength of warrior races, the intelligence of scholar species, and the technological abilities of machine civilizations. Most importantly, they had learned to combine these traits in ways no single species could match. "Doctor, how many integrated humans do we have now?" Carter asked. "Over 2 million volunteers from 37 different species," Hayes replied. "Each one brings unique abilities to our forces." Carter made his decision. The Empire wanted a final battle. Humanity would give them one, but not the kind they expected. "Send word to all human commanders. Implement the consumption protocol. Any Empire force that surrenders will be integrated. Any force that fights will be absorbed. By the end of this war, there won't be an Empire anymore." "And the Emperor?" Carter's smile was cold. "He'll have a choice. Join us or become a very interesting research subject." As the modified humans and their integrated allies prepared for the Empire's assault, Carter realized humanity had become something unprecedented in galactic history. They were no longer just a species fighting for survival. They had become evolution itself, consuming and improving everything they encountered. The Empire had tried to contain humanity because they were afraid of human nature. But in doing so, they had forced humanity to transcend their own nature and become something far more dangerous than any single species could be. They had become the galaxy's new apex predator, one that didn't just hunt its prey, it absorbed them and made them part of the hunt. Admiral Tony Martinez stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Prometheus Unbound, and marveled at what humanity had become. His ship was no longer just a vessel, it was a living entity that grew stronger with every battle. The hull rippled, with organic metal that could repair itself and adapt to new threats. Martinez himself was barely recognizable as the human officer who had started this war. His consciousness existed simultaneously in his biological body and the ship's neural network. He could feel every system, every weapon, every decision the ship made as if it were part of his own body. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the fleet," announced Dr. Nancy White, though she was speaking from a laboratory 3-star systems away. Human consciousness could now transfer instantly across vast distances through quantum-entangled neural networks. "The sleeper protocol is ready for activation," she continued. "We have agents integrated into every major empire world. Politicians, military commanders, even some of their royal family." Martinez accessed the tactical display directly through his neural interface. Red dots marked every empire stronghold, but many of them now pulsed with blue indicators. Human, agents who had spent years working their way into positions of power. The plan was audacious, even by human standards. While the Empire prepared for a conventional war, humanity had been infiltrating their society at the cellular level. Not with spies, but with volunteers who had undergone complete biological transformation to appear as perfect members of other species. "How long have they been in place?" Martinez asked. "Some for over 3 years. They volunteered for complete genetic restructuring, spending months learning to think and act like their target species. From the outside, they're indistinguishable. From the real thing." Martinez felt a moment of unease. "But they're still human inside." Dr. White's laugh came through the neural link with a sound like silver bells. Her consciousness had been distributed across 17 different bodies, each optimized for different research tasks. "Define human, Admiral. Their core personalities remain intact, but they've adapted so completely to their cover identities that they've developed genuine emotional connections to their adopted species. When they activate, they'll be fighting to protect their new families as much as to serve humanity." President Ellen Foster's image appeared in Martinez's consciousness. She was leading the final phase of human evolution from Earth. Her body now, a perfect fusion of organic and mechanical systems. Her mind processed information faster than the most advanced computers. "Tony, it's time for the final consumption," she announced. "Intelligence reports indicate that Emperor Zelnath is preparing to use their planet-killer weapons against our colony worlds. We can't wait any longer." Martinez felt the weight of the decision. The final consumption would transform the Galactic War into something unprecedented. Instead of fighting the Empire, humanity would simply absorb it from within. "All sleeper agents, this is Admiral Martinez," he broadcast across the quantum network. "Execute Protocol 0. The Empire ends today." Across hundreds of worlds, beings who looked like loyal Empire citizens suddenly revealed their true nature. Government officials who had been making policy for years announced that they were human agents. Military commanders turned their fleets against their own forces. Scientists activated hidden programs that had been embedded in Empire technology for months. But the most shocking revelation came from the Imperial Palace itself. Prince Vexnari, the Emperor's own son and heir to the throne, stood before the Imperial Council and removed a device from behind his ear. His appearance shimmered and changed, revealing the human underneath. "My name is Lieutenant Commander Sarah Phillips," she announced to the stunned council. "For the past 2 years I have been your prince. I have learned your customs, studied your weaknesses, and grown to understand your fears." The council erupted in chaos. But Phillips continued speaking, her voice now carrying the authority of someone who had literally been born to rule. "I volunteered for this mission because I believed the Empire needed to be stopped. But living among you, I've learned something different. The Empire doesn't need to be destroyed, it needs to evolve." Emperor Zelnath himself appeared on the chamber's main screen, his ancient face twisted with rage and disbelief. "Impossible. My son was tested. His genetics were verified." Phillips smiled sadly. Your son died in an accident 3 years ago. I volunteered to take his place not just to spy on you, but to understand you. And I do understand you now. You're afraid of change, afraid of losing control. But change is coming, whether you accept it or not. Throughout the galaxy, similar scenes, played out on thousands of worlds, human agents revealed themselves in positions they had held for years, some having lived entire lifetimes in their adopted identities. Admiral Martinez watched the tactical display as empire after empire stronghold fell not to conquest, but to revelation. Worlds that had been loyal to the empire for centuries suddenly declared their independence and requested protection from humanity. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Emperor Zelnath," reported Communications Officer Kevin Ross, his consciousness distributed across 17 different ships in the fleet. The Emperor's image appeared, and Martinez was shocked by how old and defeated he looked. "Admiral Martinez, I request immediate negotiation for the surrender of all Empire forces." Martinez felt surprise ripple through the collective consciousness of his fleet. They had expected a final battle, not capitulation. "Your Majesty, what are your terms?" Zelnath's shoulders slumped. "I have no terms. Your species has infiltrated every level of our society. My own military commanders are reporting that they cannot be certain which of their officers are human agents. My scientists tell me that your people have been modifying our technology for years." The Emperor paused, looking directly at Martinez. "You haven't just defeated us. You've consumed us from within. Half of my empire is now questioning whether they're even the same species they were born as." Dr. White's voice spoke through Martinez's neural link. "Admiral, our analysis indicates that the integration process has been more successful than anticipated. Many of our agents have formed genuine bonds with their adopted species. They're requesting permission to offer voluntary integration to Empire populations." Martinez realized what this meant. The war wasn't ending with humanity's victory over the Empire. It was ending with humanity's absorption of the Empire. The distinction was crucial. "Your Majesty," Martinez said carefully, "humanity offers every species in your former empire a choice. Join us willingly and retain your essential identity while gaining human adaptability. Or resist and eventually be absorbed anyway, but with less consideration for your individual preferences." Zelnath looked around his throne room, seeing for the first time how many of his guards and advisors were looking at him with human eyes and alien faces. "And if I choose to join you myself?" Martinez felt the collective consciousness of humanity consider the question. Millions of minds weighed the decision in microseconds. "You would become something unprecedented," Martinez replied. "An Emperor-class human with the wisdom of millennia and the adaptability of humanity. Your knowledge would be invaluable in helping us understand how to govern a galactic civilization." The Emperor closed his eyes. When he opened them again, Martinez saw something new there, curiosity instead of fear. "I have ruled this empire for over 1,000 years," Zelnath said slowly. "I have seen species rise and fall, watched civilizations bloom and fade, but I have never seen anything like what you've accomplished." He stood from his throne, looking suddenly more vital than he had in centuries. "You've taken the thing I most feared about humanity, your ability to change and adapt, and made it the foundation of a new kind of civilization. Very well, Admiral Martinez, I accept your offer." As Martinez watched the last emperor of the Iwizu Galactic Empire prepare to become the first Imperial-class human, he realized that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had won a war not through destruction, but through transformation. The Empire wasn't ending. It was evolving into something that could encompass every species, every world, every dream of what civilization could become. The age of human dominance wasn't beginning. The age of post-human cooperation was about to dawn. The Imperial throne world had been transformed. Where once alien architecture reached toward the sky in rigid geometric patterns, now organic curves blended seamlessly with living metal. The planet itself had become a fusion of technology and biology, a perfect representation of what humanity had become. Admiral Tony Martinez walked through the halls that had once housed the galaxy's most powerful empire. His footsteps echoed strangely because his feet were no longer entirely organic. The floor responded to his presence, analyzing his genetic structure and adjusting its temperature and texture for optimal comfort. Emperor Zelnath stood waiting in what used to be the throne room. The ancient ruler had undergone the integration process 3 months earlier, and the transformation was remarkable. He retained his distinctive alien features, but his eyes now held the spark of human curiosity, alongside millennia of accumulated wisdom. "Admiral, the final resistance fleets have agreed to negotiation," Zelnath reported. His voice carried harmonics that hadn't been there before, a side effect of human neural enhancement that allowed him to communicate on multiple levels simultaneously. Martinez nodded, accessing the tactical display through his neural interface. Dr. Nancy White's consciousness joined the conference, her attention split between 17 different research projects across the galaxy. "The Outer Rim Confederacy is the last holdout," she reported. "They're demanding guarantees that integration will be voluntary." "And we're prepared to give those guarantees?" Martinez asked. Zelnath stepped forward. As the former emperor, his words still carried weight with many of the holdout species. "Admiral, may I speak with them directly? I believe I can address their concerns." The communication opened, revealing a conference of alien leaders on the main display. Their faces showed fear, curiosity, and resignation in equal measure. "Your former Majesty," spoke Chancellor Kexelar of the Rim Confederacy. "We have heard the reports. Is it true that you voluntarily submitted to human integration?" Zelnath smiled, an expression that would have been impossible for his species before the integration. "Chancellor, I have ruled for over 1,000 years. I thought I understood power, understood leadership. But the humans showed me something I had never seen before." He gestured to the transformed throne room around him. "They didn't just conquer my empire. They offered to make it better. Every species that has joined them has retained what makes them unique, while gaining abilities they never dreamed possible." "But are you still yourself?" asked Governor Velthar of the mining worlds. Zelnath considered the question carefully. "I am more myself than I have ever been. I have the wisdom of my people combined with human innovation. I can see solutions to problems that seemed impossible before. Most importantly, I am no longer alone with the burden of leadership." He tapped his temple, where a small device indicated his connection to the human collective consciousness. "When I make decisions now, I have access to the combined knowledge and experience of millions of beings, not as a hive mind that eliminates individuality, but as a council of advisors who share their wisdom freely." Chancellor Kexelar looked uncertain. "And if we refuse integration?" Admiral Martinez spoke for the first time. "Then you continue as you are, but isolated from the new galactic civilization we're building. You won't be harmed or forced, but you'll also miss out on what we're becoming." Dr. White's holographic form materialized in the conference. "Chancellor, may I show you something?" The display changed to show one of the integrated worlds. The planet's surface was a paradise of biological and technological harmony. Cities grew like living trees, their structures adapting to the needs of their inhabitants. In the sky, ships moved like schools of fish, their movements coordinated through collective consciousness but driven by individual will. "This is Kepler-7, Dr. White explained. 6 months ago, it was a dying world, its resources exhausted, and its people facing extinction. Today, it's home to 3 different species working together to create something none of them could have achieved alone." The display zoomed in to show the planet's inhabitants. They retained their distinct species characteristics, but moved with a grace and purpose that spoke of shared understanding. "They're still Keplerian, still aquatic, still crystalline," Dr. White continued. "But they're also human in the ways that matter most. They adapt, they innovate, they care for each other across species lines." Governor Velthar leaned forward. "What happened to their natural competition, their territorial instincts?" "They channeled them," Martinez answered. "Instead of competing against each other, they compete against stagnation, against limitation, against the idea that things have to stay the way they've always been." Emperor Zelnath added, The humans taught us that aggression doesn't have to be destructive. It can be creative. Instead of fighting each other for resources, we fight to create better resources. Instead of competing for territory, we compete to build better worlds. The conference was interrupted by an alert from the Orbital Defense Network. Admiral Martinez frowned as he processed the information through his neural link. "Admiral, we have an unidentified fleet approaching the system," reported Captain Billy Johnson from his command ship. "They're not responding to communications." The display shifted to show the approaching vessels. They were unlike anything in the known databases. Sleek, predatory shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "New species?" Dr. White asked. "Unknown. But they're heading directly for the planet," Martinez replied. Emperor Zelnath studied the approaching ships with the enhanced pattern recognition that came with human integration. "Admiral, those ships, I've seen references to them in the oldest Imperial archives. They're devourers." Martinez felt a chill through his enhanced nervous system. Devourers? A species that consumed the previous galactic civilization. They were thought to be extinct, but Zelnath paused as ancient memories surfaced. The archives said they would return when a new apex species emerged. The alien ships reached the outer system, and suddenly Martinez understood why they had come. The enhanced sensors showed their true nature. These weren't just ships. They were living organisms that had achieved spaceflight through pure biological evolution. "They've been watching us," Martinez realized, "waiting to see what we'd become." The lead Devourer ship finally responded to communications. The being on the screen was unlike anything in the galactic databases, constantly shifting, adapting its form moment by moment. "New Apex." It spoke in a voice like grinding metal. "You have consumed others as we once did. The cycle continues." Martinez felt the collective consciousness of humanity analyze the threat. Millions of minds working together reached the same conclusion. These beings were what humanity might become if they lost their essential nature. "We're not like you," Martinez replied. "We don't consume to destroy. We integrate to improve." The Devourer leader's form shifted, showing what might have been amusement. "Words. We also began with noble intentions. But consumption becomes its own hunger. You will learn." Emperor Zelnath stepped forward. "With respect, you're wrong. We've already learned the difference. Watch." He activated the planetary communication system, sending a message to every being in the system, integrated and unintegrated alike. All inhabitants of the Throne World system. We are faced with a species that represents what we could become if we lose our way. They offer us a choice, become predators or become prey. But I propose a third option. The Emperor looked directly at the Devourer leader. "We offer you integration. Not consumption, not destruction, but transformation. Become part of something greater than the hunger that drives you." The Devourer leader recoiled as if struck. "Impossible. We are Apex. We do not submit." "Neither did I," Zelnath replied calmly. "But I learned that true strength comes from choosing to grow rather than merely survive." For several minutes, the Devourer fleet held position, clearly debating among themselves. Finally, their leader spoke again. "You offer evolution over extinction, Admiral?" Martinez nodded. "We offer the chance to become more than you are, to keep what makes you strong while gaining what makes us adaptable." The Devourer leader's form shifted again, and Martinez realized it was showing curiosity, an emotion their species might not have felt in millennia. "We will consider." As the alien fleet withdrew to the outer system to deliberate, Martinez felt a profound sense of completion. Humanity had become the galaxy's apex species not through conquest, but through the offer of transformation. The war that had started with humanity trapped in their solar system was ending with humanity offering freedom to the galaxy's most ancient predators. "Admiral," Dr. White said quietly, "what if they refuse?" Martinez looked around the throne room at the representatives of dozens of species, all working together to build something unprecedented in galactic history. "Then we'll show them what a truly apex species looks like. Not one that consumes others, but one that elevates them. We've become something the galaxy has never seen before, a species that grows stronger by making others stronger. Emperor Zelnath smiled, his ancient wisdom now enhanced with human hope. You've given the galaxy something it never had before, Admiral. You've given it a future where being apex means lifting others up, not pushing them down.